Hello lads and ladies and welcome back for another video on the channel. League 2 content this time around. We're going to be ranking Sky Bet League 2 managers, our opinion on them from the job that they've done so far in the club, the career so far as well, into 5 different categories. But before we do that, let's introduce you to the co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jack Kershaw. How we doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, it's good to be here and doing something different this time, ranking managers, which I'm sure will be interesting to see what we agree on because I think we agree on most stuff, but there are some things I think when we disagree, we really disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. More so not on football, more away from
Mm.
football, like big topics like best family
Chocolate
Christmas
bars.
dinner, chocolate bars. They're the thing that really I'm passionate about. Never mind football. The categories are as followed. Um, not a fan of this manager. We're not quite sure on what they're doing. Below par. We think that they maybe are probably in a job too good for them and they're not at the level. Those last two could be hand in hand, but not a fan, I think, is stronger than below par. Decent, they're all right. They've had decent careers. They're not quite in the upper echelons, but they're okay. Good gaffers, very good gaffers at certain levels as well. Goats at League 2 level. Look, we're not going to have Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola. We also do need to say Carlisle currently don't have a gaffer. Obviously, the GOAT category would have been left for Mike Williamson. So we'll let you know with that.
Can we not
If you
put
haven't
Steven
already,
Gerrard in?
Steven Gerrard, yeah, of course, mate. Start off with then King Derek Adams, the man, the myth, the legend, the Morecambe manager as it stands. He's done a very good job over the years, Jack, at Morecambe, winning a promotion, keeping them up in League One, and doing a relatively good job. His football at times isn't great. He did well at Plymouth, struggled at Bradford. For me, he is probably in the middle section just because I don't think that at a big club his style would be welcome. He's more suited to lower budget to build something. If he was at a bigger club at this level, I don't think he'd do as well. Whereas at Morecambe, no expectation. In any game he wins, he's King Derek.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I think obviously when we don't know if Morecambe are going to stay up, but if Morecambe stay up, I think he should go up to that good gaffer
Yes.
mark because obviously the job that he would do at Morecambe if he kept them up, and even right now, how many points are they off the drop zone? I think only 3, and it's remarkable considering everyone had him rock bottom and having no chance. But yeah, obviously it didn't work out at Bradford, but he got Morecambe up. He did well at Plymouth, and currently he could be doing the Great Escape this season with Morecambe. But
I think Derek Adams is more into that top section in the next section, not the second section, than the one below him. Nigel Adkins. He did well last season, that has got to be said. I think his football is horrific. I think that he plays a boring dinosaur style. His in-game substitutions are absolutely woeful. At the start of the year, he was labelled as a messiah after getting 8 points in the first 12 after he had conceded a goal. That's all of a sudden stopped because they are still not scoring goals. They are still now leaking goals for fun. They've got no attacking impetus in a forward area. The squad is a poor one, but it's a more than capable one of staying in the division. I genuinely think he is one of the worst managers in the division.
I think Adkins for me has got to be on the bottom list. For me, obviously past achievements are great, and we got 2 promotions, I think, in the 2010 mark. But if you're looking at recently, like you say, his playing style's aged. He's just really getting Tranmere into a relegation scrap, and you're thinking, with his experience, he's not using it well. He's not trying to adapt. He's not trying to find different ways about it. And people who follow this division would agree.
Bang on. Absolutely bang on. And I think that if Tranmere Rovers do not get a change, they will be relegated. Next one, John Doolan. I'll let you start off with this. The Accrington Stanley boss that was made into the boss around this time last year.
Yeah, I think for what Doolan's got, resources available at Accrington, I know they've probably had a bit better recruitment than Morecambe, but they're still in and around the National League. I think he's done relatively well this season. I know Accrington are around the 20th place mark, but you got to think this is a manager who's came off the back of Coleman, who was at Accrington for ages. Not big expectations, but you've got a long-serving manager which the fans loved, and you've got some pressure on you there to try and keep Accrington in the football league, especially with the recruitment. But Stanley, they are a small club at this division, like Morecambe and Fleetwood, and they haven't got the resources available like us Fleetwood have. And yeah, I think Doolan, I'd probably put him in the middle of Adkins and Derek Adams.
I think I agree with. I think that putting John Doolan and Derek Adams in the category would be not great at all. I think that they both, I think it's sandwich in the middle. Let's have a John Doolan sandwich. There you are. Next up is a very experienced manager. One, I think now the longest serving manager after Ainsworth obviously left Wickham and Mark Robbins left Coventry and Everett left Bolton. There's no one really challenging him. Don Coleman at Accrington was another one. Is Simon Weaver at Harrogate, and what a job he's done at their football club, getting them into the Football League and solid seasons as well. A bit like Derek Adams, I think that his style at other football clubs won't be suited. At Harrogate, they love and adore him. They don't mind the style. They're all about 3 points on a Saturday or a cold Tuesday night. It's about getting enough points to stay in the EFL. Whereas if you go to Bradford City, you go to Milton Keynes, Chesterfield, you judge more than just 3 points, which sounds ludicrous. You've got to win games of football.
He wants to be well drilled so far this season. He's, turned up getting some of the bigger clubs, Bradford and Doncaster too, to know. And, they're Yorkshire derbies. He knows the importance of it. I'd put him in an average manager because below par would be harsh because he's had decent finishes actually good finishes for the size of Harrogate Football Club.
Derek Adams, Simon Weaver and decent. Below par, John Doolan maybe just lacks a little bit of managerial experience. And Nigel Atkinson, not a fan. Next up is Barrow's Andy Wing, who's only been in the job a matter of a couple of weeks, joining from Solihull in the National League. Very hard to judge, but did a very good job at Solihull. A little bit like Pete Wild did at Barrow and Halifax, but in the lower division. How do you find this one? Because he won his first game, lost his last two to Doncaster and Newport. It's hard to judge on 3 games. I've not seen much of him, if I'm honest with you, so it's very hard to judge. Again, can you put him at the same level as Derek Adams and Weaver? Very unsure.
Yeah, definitely, because, you're judging the National League compared to League Two. And obviously he did brilliant at Solihull Moors. He were sort of on track to get a playoff finish this season, around about 9th and 10th. And then last season he got them in the playoffs. I think actually led them to the playoff final. I think it was Solihull Moors versus Bromley. I don't know. I think it was. But, the first game at Barrow, he won 3-0. Comfortable game, I thought.
Would you put him there, below par?
Can we not get another category? The Andy Wing category.
I know. Do we just have him there?
Yeah.
Or there. I think the top of below par.
Yeah, and obviously below par, it's not disrespect to Andy Wing. It's just because, you're trying to judge the translation from National League to League Two. And obviously me and you aren't the massive watchers of the National League. So we're only judging 3 games of what he's done at Barrow, which ultimately it's not his squad yet. So it is hard, but so far he seems like a decent guy and he seems like a decent gaffer.
If it wasn't for Pete Wild 6 weeks ago, he could have been a big watch of the National League, boy. Next up is John Coleman, a man that knows a lot about this division from his time at Accrington. Stanley, very like Weaver, very like Derek Adams, done stuff on limited resources, gone to Gillingham, hasn't quite worked out for him yet. It's one of those. I don't know about you, but John Coleman, I know he's only been there a short period. Gillingham manager, don't sound right. It doesn't sound a match made in heaven. I know that's because he's been at Accrington Stanley for many years, but I think that, like you said about Weaver, it'd be weird to see him at another football club. He's done well at Accrington, and I think that he at least deserves the middle section.
Say about Weaver, he's a decent gaffer, but ultimately he hasn't took Harrogate up to the next step, which ultimately Coleman did that with Accrington. Yeah. But obviously Coleman has had the time more than Weaver, so maybe in the next 2 or 3 years we could see Harrogate go up there. But obviously Accrington won the league when they went up, so that's a massive achievement in itself. Very top of decent.
Let's go with it. Let's go with it. Harsh on Derek Adams because Derek Adams could maybe be in that category, but let's go with it. I'll go with you. Nelson Jardim, done well so far at Newport for what he maybe expected. A different style. We didn't know what we expected. A lot of people have them wrote off to get relegated this year. However, I'm in the kind of Andy Wing below par type situation. Andy Wing's difficult because I don't think he is below par. I don't think he strikes me as an amazing coach that I think is going to go and revolute Newport County up the divisions, but I'm unsure on him.
Yeah, he fits Newport County now because, when they sat at Cochrane, they said they parted ways because they wanted to go down a different route. And ultimately, with the young recruitment, they brought in a young manager who's, really inexperienced, and they want to, try and push up the Football League with him. But obviously, it's a match with his club. But so far, I think he's done all right. But I think he's made the home form strong, and as we said before, to stay in this division, a minimum requirement is to make your home form strong, and he's certainly done that. But I just think that at times Newport fans may have got a bit fed up with him, and actually a Newport fan commented saying, "I would like you to do an opposition analysis on us, but I don't know the way we play." So that is a bit concerning if you're a fan of your football club, you don't know the way you play. But
don't really feel a connection with him as well. I feel like he's just there as a League Two. Like Newport just exists with him in charge, if you get me. That's how we've got it so far. We've got 7 managers completed, just 16 to go. Next up is Big Andy Woodman. What a guy, what a man. A promotion from the National League, which seemed unbelievable. This year, a real playoff charge. And a lot of games this year being 3-0 up against Salford, didn't win the game. Up at Walsall, didn't win the game. They could have so many more points. He's been very patchy, started okay, went on a poor run, and then went on this really good run to get it away from the bottom 2 near the playoffs. I think that a very decent manager. I think that he's done a little bit better than an Andy Wing. So for me, I'd have him in that middle category at this moment in time.
Yeah, Andy Woodman above Andy Wing, AW above AW. I won't be too displeased about that because obviously we've seen more about Woodman. Bromley are a club that have actually signed better than what I may have thought for a side who, are a club like Bromley. People put them in the bottom 2 because, it's a small club coming up from the National League. We have to lob them in the bottom 2. It's like a ritual for people, but, the level of manager that he's been matched with the recruitment, some real good signings in there and mixed between the youth and the experience well, but also, people think about Andy Woodman as, long ball, but he actually has a few, not technical players, but Michael Cheek, I thought, he's got good footwork. Corey Whitley behind him has, and then you've also got Adam Mayer, who's on loan, Ben Thompson in the middle of the park, Andy Woodman, a decent gaffer. For Bromley in the first season to be, around about mid-table, that's incredible.
There you are. I think I can concur with all those words, Mr. Jack Kershaw.
First time for everything.
Exactly. Next up, Jose Pete Wild. Pete Wild, former Halifax and Barrow, done good jobs. Been nearly manager, nearly got Halifax into a good position. 2 playoff chases with Barrow. The second year they should have got in, they faded away. This year, can't judge him off his Fleetwood period just yet. But experienced, a passionate young manager. I think that anything other than the bottom 2 category is harsh because I don't think he's below par level, and I'm definitely a fan of his. You look at what John Coleman's done, he's won a league. Derek Adams got a promotion out of this level as well. Pete Wild has had a more constant win, kind of wins, you know what I mean, over the course of the season, probably with better squads. He rebuilds squads with Pete Wild. I think in that middle section, if he gets a promotion with Fleetwood, then he goes into God automatically. But for me, the middle section, I think is fair.
But yeah, he's certainly a decent manager for this level. Like I say, he upturned Barrow from 2 bottom half finishes and 2 relegation scrapping finishes into 2 sort of playoff push seasons. Obviously, he faded away, but I'm sure he'll have his lessons learned. And he seems like a guy who's maybe sort of 50, but he's actually 40. Sometimes you need to think that he is actually a young manager, and now I'm just going to put in decent.
Yeah, I love that as well. Next up is a manager that brings up questions a lot of the time. Ian Holloway, what a job he's done at Swindon so far. He's transformed that football club. They only had 13 points from their opening 18 games, which says a lot about him and the job he's done. They have now climbed up that Sky Bet League 2 table. They are now 14th in the division, 37 points from 30, taking 24 points from their last 12. It's 2 points a game, which is really good as well. A promotion from the Championship with Crystal Palace and Blackpool. Experienced manager. He's taken a while out of the game, which I think some people don't understand how good of a manager he was years ago as well. And he's still doing a good job at this football club. I would go as far to say that I think he's one of the best managers in this division. And not just for the short period that he's done, but he's one of the managers that I actually like listening to as well.
Yeah, I think with the appointment, at the start of the appointment, I was thinking below par, but that's also what I thought of Steve Bruce when he went to Blackpool. And it looks like now Holloway, he's creeping up and he's got the experience to make everything about him, come up with these not stupid, but, outrageous stuff like the training grounds curse and, I'm not sure he would have wanted to have a pop at fans to try and reflect stuff away from the ownership problems and stuff. But, he has had their moments where Swindon fans may have not been pleased with him, but by any means. But Ian Holloway's done, I think, a better job than what people give him just because of his personality.
Where are we having him then?
Obviously, you can take
that
him
Blackpool squad he had was favourites to go down in the Championship.
Yeah, I was about to say, with Holloway, you can also take into his past achievements, and obviously he's now backing up in the present. Obviously, Adkins didn't do it, so I will go good gaffer for Holloway.
Good gaffer, I've got him in go here. Do you think that? Do you?
I don't know because because looking at the squad that he has at Swindon, you expect anyone else than Mark Kennedy to come in and uplift him and turn
it's not
things
a bad
around.
Squad, is it?
No, I think it's mid-table.
Players like Kilkenny's he's a good footballer. Will Wright,
Harry Smith's a great target man.
Harry Smith's a brilliant talent. They've got players like Kabongo Shamanga as well.
Sell them to 100 million to the Premier League, and then they'll worm their way back to Fleetwood, and then I'll rip up my season ticket.
Yeah. Next up, the nicest man in football, Danny Cowley. Unbelievable job in the non-league scene. An unbelievable job at Lincoln City. I hear about it all the time. Beep, beep, beep. Time for another Danny Cowley update. Didn't quite work out at Huddersfield or Portsmouth for him. But there you go. Bigger clubs, bigger expectations. And now they're ploughing the trade at Colchester United. He kept them up last season, which is good. They are 13th. However, I don't think that's Danny Cowley and Nicky Cowley. Yes, they're hard to beat. They've drawn 13 times this year. They have only lost 7 times, which is as many as Bradford City or AFC Wimbledon or as many as Doncaster. It's good. I think good manager. I really do, because they got promotion from League 2 to League 1 with Lincoln City. And for me, good gaffers, really good gaffers, and they get it with the fans and they build good connections. What's the relationship with the supporters like? And it's a good one at Colchester.
Yeah, I actually thought maybe you'd go into the GOAT here because I know how much you like Danny Cowley. But yeah, I'd agree with you because also, obviously, last season the draws were acceptable because Colchester was all about staying up and getting points on the board. But you would have thought maybe this season, as much as he's gone unbeaten and he's kept the defence tight, they still maintain them draws and they just need to get into wins. And he's experienced enough. He went on that fairy tale run with Lincoln in the FA Cup and he's a really likable guy. And at Colchester, just another season of rebuilding that squad. You feel that you could go into playoffs with Cowley at the helm. And this season, even though obviously, like I said, it would have been better to get the draws into wins, but then no matter how talented that squad is, you're still trying to uplift a squad that's finished 22nd.
So overall, I think Danny Cowley goes in good gap. I think you look at what he's done. Some real pedigree in this league. When you look at it, Jack, there's some really good managers.
A lot
Danny
of promotion
Cowley, Ian
winners
Holloway,
too.
John Coleman, all in good gaffers. Not bad. I think that so far, John Doolan, Andy Wing, maybe a bit harsh on. Michael Flynn turned the fortunes around at Cheltenham in recent weeks. What do you think of him, mate?
I think it was good that they actually didn't sack him because everyone knows who Gary Johnson would have brought in if they sacked Michael Flynn, and I'm sure things would have got a lot worse at Cheltenham Town. But I think Flynn, I didn't have much hope at the start of the season. Looking at his previous records at clubs, but I think he's coming and he's got some young attacking talent up front. He was sort of trying out different strikers. He was having Taylor at one point. He was having Ryan Bowman. But then I think now because he settled on a squad and also settled on a system, it was sort of. I think he had Ethan Archer at centre mid one point. He definitely did against Fleetwood. I was thinking, I thought he was maybe like a tricky winger or a tricky wing back, and it also helps with getting Jude Boyd back. And I think Michael Flynn is decent, I'd reckon. That blip at the start of the season, it was just trying new things out. The recruitment wasn't brilliant for Cheltenham this window off the start of it. And I think he's really improved these players that have come in and people maybe raise their eyebrows to.
Agree with that. I think that decent. Scott Lindsay, if we were doing this in November, he might be in the top two categories. And we need to take recent bias out. What he did at Crawley last year was phenomenal. To go with a squad with I think there's weakest budget and the smallest budget in the league too, and getting promoted and made Stadium MK the playground. He's now gone to MK, and everybody that goes to Stadium MK at this moment is making it their playground. He's struggling. Maybe again, bigger expectations with bigger and better players. He has brought two or three of his own players in there, and he inherited a couple of them as well. What do you think about him? Because the job he did last year was phenomenal. But other than that, there's nothing really to judge him on, is there?
No, and even when he got into League One, people were still putting Scott Lindsay in the top six, which looking at him when he was in League One, I'm sure he had Crawley above the relegation zone, and they were way more competitive than what they are now under Rob Elliott, which is understandable. Rob Elliott's more inexperienced than Lindsay, even though both of them are inexperienced. But I think obviously he's inherited the side at MK. Everyone will think, right, he'll come in and inherit this possession-based squad and really do well with them. But then I was one of them people. Then thinking of the finer details, it's all good having this possession-based squad, but you've got to look at the different profiles of players. I think next season will really define Scott Lindsay, and I honestly, you might call me crazy, but I would put him in that top tier because of what he did at Crawley, the way he went about his business in the playoff semi-final against MK Dons. He's adaptable. He's got a good pressing style. He don't dominate the ball too much. He'll happily sit off it and not create as much chances. So I think that Scott Lindsay deserves to be in the top.
You think goats?
Yeah, I think minimum is definitely good gaffer, but I will put Scott Lindsay in goats.
I think Milton Keynes Dons fans need to be patient. They haven't been patient. If they go 4 or 5 without a win, it's the manager needs to go. He needs time. Give him 18 months. This isn't his squad at the end of the day. Yes, he's got players like Maguire, like Kelly in there, Orsey now as well. It's just signed. Give him time. He won 5 in a row 2 months ago. He was the best thing since sliced bread. Next up, Paul Cook, promotion. Wigan, Portsmouth, Chesterfield, plays a really good style of football and loves a voice crack as well. I like watching these sides play. They play with intensity, they play with pace, they play with width. Top 10 first season back in the Football League with a squad dampened with injuries. They lost Dylan Markamdi, who went out on loan to Leyton Orient. It's a big loss as well for the football club. They've lost James Berry. They've been a bit patchy this year, but that's a mid-table squad. They're just outside the playoffs. Unbelievable times at Wigan. He's managing the Championship. I think he's got to go in the top category.
I was about to say, I think we should go back-to-back goats for Scott Lindsay and Paul Cook.
This is harsh on Ian Holloway that he's not up there with them.
Yeah, I think Holloway's in the middle. I think Lindsay, obviously he hasn't got the history that Holloway has, but he's got the sort of recency bias. And then Paul Cook, I think he's got a mix of both because he was in the National League with Chesterfield, but they scored for fun, and he went up with Wigan and Portsmouth, and even though he plays his possession-based style for Chesterfield, you've got to look at the other factors that have affected them this season. Like you said, Mark Candy gets recalled, James Berry goes, and then they've been riddled with injuries. Surely they've had the most in the EFL this season. Yeah, Paul Cook definitely is in the goats.
Agree with that. Next up is Dave Artell, a man that did phenomenally well at Crewe. They go over 3 or 4 years of promotion. This is in his first season in League One, nearly in a playoff race. In lockdown was really good. Unfortunately, he ended sourly. They got relegated and he lost his job, unfortunately so. But he's gone to Grimsby, kept them up, and now building for something, really good. They're in the top 12. They've won nearly half the football matches this year. I think they've won 13, drawn 3, and lost 13. He's got a good personality. I think what he said to Gab, didn't he? Thanks, beautiful. And he just shows you that style. He's had a lot going on in his personal life in recent years as well.
Playoffs, he's been in that top half, and he's definitely in the good gaffers for me, Artell. He's adaptable. He can... he's a bit like Pete Wild. He likes to play a 4-back, but also he can play a 5-back if needs be. He can sort of dominate the balls in some games, and then in some games he can have less of the ball and want to hurt sides on the counter attack. And I think he's putting trust into young players, and he's building a quality squad at Grimsby, and he's another one who's got a promotion.
Next up is Carl Robinson, a manager that's very similar to Pete Wild, but I think has done it at a better level. At Oxford, he promoted a lot of players. He got good fees for a lot of footballers as well. He had good cut runs. He had good seasons at Oxford. He ended sourly off the pitch and on it in a relegation battle. I think he left in about January/February time last year. A couple of years ago, Liam Manning came into the football club and kept them up and rebuilt them for the promotion season as well. He got them to a playoff final against Wycombe. Great cut runs a couple of times. I think he played West Ham once as well. He did a really good job at MK Dons, however, building them up through the leagues as well. Experienced manager, but still seems very young, very thought of. MK Dons, Oxford, now Salford. I'm between here. Good gaffers. I think strong, good gaffers. Not quite enough to be GOAT for me.
No, it's a shame because actually, I was looking at his age the other day and thinking, wow, he's that young? It was only a couple of seasons ago. He went to Leeds as an assistant manager with Sam Allardyce, and I thought, surely he's got to be about 60 then. Sorry for Carl Robinson.
Really? You thought he was 60?
Yeah, sorry, Carl Robinson, for offending you there. But I thought he's experienced enough anyway. But like I said, he got MK Dons up, I think, from League One to the Championship at Oxford. He maintained them in League One, had a few top half finishes, and did his business there. Obviously, he would have learnt under Sam Allardyce for the 4 games in the Premier League at Leeds, and now at Salford. I think he's not a high-profile manager, but a lot of people know him, and you would tip him for a sort of top 10 job in League Two. And I think inheriting a Salford side that want to actually, recruit high profiles, I think it does match him. But I think, yeah, a good gaffer for Carl Robinson, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in the Salford City project because they want to bounce up the football league. They haven't quite done it when getting promoted to League Two, but I do think he is a good fit for that football club to try and progress them up.
Graham Alexander, experienced, done very well at Fleetwood Town, Scunthorpe United, never really got over that line at Scunthorpe, but a couple of playoff finishes. You look where they are now. They spent money. They had good players: Madden, Van Veen, Connor Townsend, just to name a few. I built them up. Went to over in Scotland, didn't quite work out. Did very well at Salford, undeservedly got sacked. Now at Bradford, never really clicked. His football is very one-dimensional and quite boring to watch. It's a bit of a drab, but it wins football matches. If he gets sides hard-working, I think he's a good gaffer. I don't think he's a goat. I'm not a fan of his play style. I think he's always had good squads when he's done well.
I think a club like Bradford does kind of suit Graham Alexander because everyone knows him, even as a player. I think he was at Burnley and Preston, so he's been up north, and I think obviously it didn't work out at Scotland like you said, but I think he's got the fundamentals to be a good gaffer at this level, and ultimately he's also won a promotion, and I think also now obviously because Derek Adams has also won a promotion, but it seems like Alexander's now got Bradford in the playoffs where Bradford needs to be, and obviously Derek Adams couldn't really do that.
Darren Moore, talk to me about him. Played and managed in all 4 divisions. He's one of these types of managers that's always seemed to get a job. He started off well at West Brom, got sacked undeserved. I think they were 5th when he got sacked. But since then, he's not really pulled up any trees, but always seemed to be highly thought of. Speak to me a bit about him. He did well at Sheffield Wednesday, did get them up, but in what style?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna ask you actually at the end what you think he should be ranked, and then I'll say my piece. But I think Darren Moore, obviously Sheffield Wednesday, and I think not any manager would have got that squad up, but most managers, any decent manager at League One level would have got that squad up. And then Doncaster, it didn't work out. And then, you're thinking again, a similar squad like he had at Sheffield Wednesday, a high-profile squad, and I don't think he's been too riddled with injuries this season, and he's had the squad depth to kind of, pull through and get results, but he sort of hasn't. And like Gab Sutton said, and I think he's a good man manager, Darren Moore, but there's not much tactics about him. I don't think. I think he has the high quality players, but I think he just lets them play, which is obviously a good thing. You want to get your players expressing the freedom, but I just think he's had the high profile players. He's had the players to be the best in their division, and if he went in at a side that's lower, then I don't think he'd do as well. What do you think then for Darren
I
Moore?
don't think he's as good as manager as Derek Adams. I don't think he's below par. I think he's decent. He got 96 points that year with Sheffield Wednesday, which is still very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Too many bad defeats, too patchy at times. Go on good runs, go on bad runs. He looks very void of ideas at times. Always had good squads. This year, this Vale squad should be doing better than it is. And I know it's doing okay in the division. It's fighting for, it's 2 points outside the top 3. It's not disastrous. They won half the games. We're probably being harsh. They won 3 of the last 5. You went 5. You won 6 in a row when you won 8, drew 2 in that 10-game unbeaten run. I just never been sold on him. I know Tony, God rest his soul, was the same. I think decent, mate. What would you have?
Below par.
Really?
I just think Sheffield Wednesday, obviously, they went through the playoffs. He bottled top 2. At the end, I can't believe he didn't go up in the automatic promotion.
Do you think he's below par for League 2, though, this Port Vale squad?
Well, I think what he's doing now is below standard with Port Vale.
He's 2 points off the top 2, mate.
Yeah, but
If we
I
film this
think
next week and they're in the top 3, things are different, aren't they?
I don't know because
I think it's harsh that. I think it's but
yeah, but
because
then based on my prediction at the start of the season, I had Port Vale first. And looking at that squad, you've got promotion winners, you've got players that realistically would do a job in League One, and obviously he's trying to get past the bad patches, but I just think I haven't seen enough from him as a manager. He's very direct, but then is it a hard play style to coach?
he,
Playing
he
direct and playing into a target man. I don't think so. Personally, I think
he's
below par, but I wouldn't
I
argue with your
if you look at it, mate, he
decision.
won half his games as West Brom boss, right? He won 44% of his games at Doncaster Rovers. He had a great win percentage at Sheffield Wednesday, but it should be higher. There's no doubt about that. At Huddersfield, he did only win 3 out of 23, but he drew 11 of them, a lot 1-1. I think that's tarnished him a little bit. Port Vale, he's won 17 out of 52, and he went in there last year and made him probably worse. I think middle. I think I don't want to drop him any further than that.
To be fair, I think I also have a bit of a grudge. What he did at Sheffield Wednesday, wanted a ridiculous wage, and thought he
Yeah.
was better than what he was. Went to Huddersfield. Obviously, he got sacked there. I mean, they weren't in the best situation anyway. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't grumble at decent, but for me, he's sort of below par. I don't rate Darren Moore. He seems like a very humble guy, except from how it
Yeah.
ended at Sheffield Wednesday. But
Mm.
no, not for me.
Lee Bell next. Crewe boss got him to a playoff final last year. Had to rebuild the foundations after Dave Artell left and a relegation to League Two. However, in a good place at this moment in time. Currently in the playoffs. He's only won 12 times this year, but only lost 5. A lot of draws, 48 points after a poor start to the season. I'd have him as a good upcoming young, hungry coach. Bloomfield-esque feel about him as well. Probably good gaffer.
I'd agree with that because Lee Bell, there's a lot to like about him. Again, Crewe, I think they've got one of the lowest budgets in the league. I think it was 22nd in the league. I saw someone put, and that's mad. But he really gets with the sort of ethos about Crewe because I think us and Crewe are the only academies to be in Cat 2 in the division, and I think he fits in with their model. He wants to bring up young players, and this season I think he's had more help with experienced players coming in. Like obviously he retained Nicky Dimitriou, but he's got Omar Bogle and Kane Hemmings coming in. I like Lee Bell, another manager in this division, which makes his side hard to beat. The playoff final, a great gaffer's got beat by a goat gaffer, so you can't really argue with that for me.
Yeah, agree with that. Johnny Jackson started well at Charlton, faded away, but at Wimbledon done very well. Mid-table last year, but a good season followed on so far. I've never been convinced by Johnny Jackson, if I'm honest with you. I think that he's got Wimbledon hard to play against, but is he as good as the ones in the second category down? I'm unsure, mate.
I won't go below par. I'd go average or decent.
Decent. I think
Yeah,
he's a decent manager. He's got a good squad. You've got to remember that as well.
yeah, but then sort of Wimbledon, sort of mid-table, and you're thinking, yeah, I would have him definitely decent because anything below a decent manager, I don't think we'll get that Wimbledon squad where it is currently. Battling for top 3. I know it's an open division, but and he's also been kind of brave. He's had James Tilley and Newfield, both wing backs, sort of wingers in my eyes, anyway. Sort of, and so he's aggressive in that approach. He's recruited well, getting Matty Stevens to complement Omar Bugle, and he wants a really athletic squad, which is the basics really to be a top League Two outfit, and a good achievement so far. This season, if he does get Wimbledon in the playoffs or even top 3.
3 managers left now. Stuart Maynard divides opinion, doesn't he, at Notts County? Give me your thoughts.
Definitely not GOAT. Definitely not. It's either 2 or 3. the second or third category because
3 for
I
me.
think
3. He's got an incredibly
yeah.
talented there.
Yeah, he has, but I think he's also had the mentality where last season he's replacing Williams, which obviously it didn't work well last season. They were conceding and scoring a lot, but he's inherited a squad after a top gaffer, and this season he's coped with the pressure well on the decent sort of category
Top end of
because.
decent.
Yeah, because ultimately he's made the step up from National League to a possession-based side in League Two
Yeah.
that want to win the league. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Big
decent. And I
pressure.
think if he goes up,
Yeah.
then I think
100%.
he'll do well in League One and be a good gaffer.
100%. There's still a long way to go. And I think that he's improving because Notts County fans weren't sure of him at first. That's got to be said
Yeah.
because it was a very difficult job, wasn't it, taking on that role, big football club, big pressure. And again, he's sorted the defence out, still scoring goals, which is a big factor. Grant McCann, well, he's had a lively career, hasn't he? Doncaster, Peterborough, Doncaster, Peterborough. He's got a love affection with those two football clubs, hasn't he? When you look at it as well, 3 spells at Peterborough, 2 at Doncaster, and 1 at Hull City, which people forget about. He did very well at Hull City in that squad that I think ended up being one of the most effective champions of League One when Hull came down in lockdown. That season kind of is a virgin from my memory, really. But he's done a good job at Doncaster this year. Did a good job last year. For me, I think that he's got a bit of pedigree. He's got promotion to the Championship, managed in the Championship. Where would you have him?
I think he's taken the last GOAT spot for me.
Of course he is, because Jack Kershaw, no. I agree. I fully agree.
Yeah.
He gets his sides playing good attacking football on the front foot, and he's got promotion, and he's done very well. Look, this is hard on a lot of managers because if I'm honest with you, I think we've been harsh on so many managers, and this is how we've got it so far. It's very difficult. Those top 3, but you could also have from good gaffers, Graham Alexander, Ian Holloway. I think maybe Danny Cowley will be unlucky to miss out on the top section. I think Derek Adams deserves probably a promotion into the other section. I think maybe the likes of, I think there's a few average managers in that decent category. Andy Wing's unlucky and John Doolan, we can't really judge him on. Nigel Adkins is just down there. We haven't got an agenda. We promise. Talk to me a little bit about Grant McCann then, Jack.
Well, I think what gives him sort of a USP, especially in recent seasons, he's used the loan market really well in January, and last season it was brilliant. Matty Craig, I don't know if you know about it, but I'm a massive fan of Matty Craig. I don't know if anyone's seen or even Ben knows. I don't know if he knows that I'm a massive fan of him. But yeah, well, he's all right, isn't he? And then, they got the whole keeper last season, and they also got the keeper Delican. So this season, they've recruited Charlie Crewe, Ethan Ennis. They got Rob Street on loans. So they've got, some good players in there in January. And I think with McCann, he'll say what he wants to say, and then most of the time he does back it up. And, to uplift the Doncaster side mid-season last season, where there was 21st, he could have easily got sacked, but he kept in it. He stayed strong. He it weren't scintillating football from Grant McCann, but it was decent enough to make Doncaster sort of the team they are now. And if they get promoted, then that's another promotion on Grant McCann's CV, which is going to be a very good one.
100%. Next up, last but not least, top of the table, Matt Sadler. Very, very short term, this. He's done very well this year. The job isn't done yet. He's done a remarkable job. However, it's short term only. How would you assess it? Because he's got him playing good football, brought good loans in, restructured the whole football club, and for a young coach, doing very well.
I want to say good gaffer because I can't say decent and Sorry, not Port Vale. And Walsall have obviously the season's not done, but they've ran away with it so far. They've got a reasonable point gap, and competing against the sides of Doncaster, Notts County, Port Vale, and they're the only ones in the division that have gained consistency. Where I'd say at best, people had them mid-table at best, and looking at the squad, you didn't know how they were going to get any goals. And obviously, Nathan Lowe's took the spotlight, but who's put a target man next to Nathan Lowe to get in the goals? Who's put a pressing striker and a quick striker next to Jamil Matt Sadler has? And again, it's another side in this division that just do the basics well. They use the whip well, the front footed. I think sort of it's got to them a bit the past few games, but they've bounced back from defeats so far this season. They've got Ellis Harrison in this summer. I think that's a great sign, and I think they've got 6 centre forwards now to choose from. So they've now recruited well in January. They've got decent squad depth, and it'll be interesting to see how they do in League One, because I do think they'll go up, and I think Matt Sadler's a good gaffer for this level.
But can I just also add this? It's not going in the video. On the 28th of December, PW subscribed to my channel. I don't know what that means, but a blank profile PW apparently. Just going through that now, just had a look at that, just because I wanted to see that who had subscribed. Fully agree. So where are we putting him then? Where are we going?
Good gaffer.
Good gaffer, right.
Can't put a manager who's top of the league above Doncaster, Notts County, Port Vale, the big guns in this league, in decent gaffer. Obviously, the league's not done, but I think it's a remarkable job what he's doing this season.
Absolutely. So not a fan, Nigel Adkins. Andy Wingle lucky to be in below par. John Doolan also joins him. Nelson Jardim in there as well. Do you want to read decent out for us, mate? And I put it in.
Pardon?
Read out the managers that are indecent.
So decent manager, we've got Derek Adams, Andy Woodman, Johnny Jackson, mine and Ben's favourite Pete Wild, Simon Weaver, Darren Moore, and Michael Flynn.
In good gaffers is Matt Sadler in charge of the Sadlers. Stuart Maynard in charge of Notts County. Promotion winner Graham Alexander. Leeds assistant coach and former MK Dons and Oxford coach Carl Robinson. Jake Tong's favourite manager Danny Cowley. The lovable but maniac Ian Holloway. John Coleman, former Accrington Stanley. Dave Artell, formerly of Crewe and now of Grimsby. And Lee Bell of Crewe. Goats. Read goats out for us.
Goats, we've got Scott Lindsay, obviously did a fantastic job at Crawley last season. I'm sure he'll get it underway at MK Don soon. Grant McCanny's got promotions under his belt and really, experienced at this level. And Paul Cook, I think, is my best manager of the league. Is Paul Cook. I think he's got it all, and he seems like a really nice guy. I think in a few years to come, Ben Natman and Jack Kershaw will be in the goats list.
Yeah, together. Sorry. That'll be on the outputs. Yeah, together. Me and Jack Kershaw. We'd have kept Fleetwood up last year. We'd been in the Championship, not League Two. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Before we do so, make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and go and follow Jack's Twitter page. He's on the road to 10,000 followers, aren't you, mate?
Yeah. First of all, I need to hit 5,000, but I'm being very ambitious.
Very close.
Yeah, I'm very close, and I'm being ambitious to get 10,000. Just want to get the right people looking at my work. So go to Twitter, JKAnalysis7. I don't just do Fleetwood content. I do EFL content too. And if you want to drop me a message or reply to one of my tweets, then list something down below which you'd like to see.
Absolutely, the boy wonder is growing like a maniac. He's doing really well on Twitter or /X. It's always Twitter to me. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we've been Well, we've been the Fleetwood duo, haven't we? We've gone all red
Mm.
today. Well, thank you so much for watching.